Welcome back to our channel. That 2000, 2015, or 2019 quarter in your change jar might look ordinary, but it could be worth a small fortune. Some of these modern coins were struck with rare errors, off-metal compositions, or ultra-low mintage runs that turned pocket change into prized possessions. One tiny detail could be the key to a $5,000 surprise. These aren't just coins, they're modern-day mysteries waiting to be discovered. Like this video if you've ever checked your change, and subscribe for more hidden gems that could be sitting in your wallet right now. Let's start with 2000. The year 2000 arrived with the energy of a new millennium, stirring changes across the globe, and in the quieter corners of American coinage, something curious was stirring as well. As part of the ambitious 50-state quarters program launched in 1999, the U.S. Mint was tasked with producing 5 new state-themed quarters each year. The designs were ambitious, showcasing state pride through carefully selected imagery. That year, Massachusetts, Maryland, South Carolina, New Hampshire, and Virginia would have their quarters struck, and across mints in Philadelphia and Denver, millions of coins clinked into bins, ready to circulate across the nation. In the background, a subtle shift in the minting process was taking place. The mint had been refining its die usage, experimenting with minor improvements in design relief, and working through an array of dies that had to be switched out frequently to accommodate the different state designs. Under such strain and volume, small inconsistencies could slip past quality control unnoticed. And that's exactly what happened. Among the hundreds of millions of coins minted that year, a handful bore a mistake so minuscule it evaded attention for months, perhaps even longer. Not all errors scream their existence. Some whisper, quietly, patiently waiting for the right pair of eyes to notice them. The collector didn't expect much from the quarter in their hand. It was just another day flipping through pocket change. The clink of coins, the shuffle of silver and copper edges, the routine of sorting by year. That was when something felt off, not wrong, exactly, just different. The quarter's edge glinted oddly in the light, not in its shine, but in its form. It had a slight thickness, an unfamiliar bevel, and a subtle doubling where there shouldn't be. At first, the collector assumed it was damage. Coin rolls can batter edges. Cash drawers wear them down. But this one was sharp. Intact. Intentional. They peered closer, the fine details beginning to betray their secret. On the obverse, George Washington's profile seemed to shimmer not with polish, but with layers. His hairline doubled almost imperceptibly. And the legends. United States of America. Liberty. They danced slightly, a shadow echo of themselves trailing underneath. A chill prickled at the back of their neck. They'd seen doubled dies before, of course, but something about this one was different. It was cleaner, more subtle. Not the dramatic kind found in textbooks. This was the ghost of a doubling, delicate but deliberate. The search began in earnest. Reference guides, online forums, late-night emails to specialists. Days blurred into weeks. Eventually, the pattern emerged. A few reports, scattered and vague, of a 2000 quarter with what some were calling partial extra thickness, or low-grade obverse doubling. There wasn't consensus. Some dismissed it as machine doubling, insignificant. Others weren't so sure. What made it peculiar was its specificity. The error appeared primarily on the Massachusetts quarter, minted in Philadelphia. No one could quite explain why this specific coin, from this specific mint, had this recurring anomaly. And yet, with each confirmed specimen, the collector's hunch solidified. This was more than coincidence. It was a legitimate die error, subtle, uncommon, and overlooked. Initially, the value wasn't impressive. The first coin sold on eBay fetched just $12, hardly a fortune. But attention began to build. The coin appeared in a numismatic blog. A niche coin group on Facebook began tracking sightings. Someone found a second, then a third. But the total number stayed low. Weeks passed with no new finds. The market noticed. $12 became $40. then $85, then $200. Not everyone believed. Skeptics remained. Machine doubling was the common claim. But for every dismissal, a sharper-eyed collector chimed in with measurements, overlays, photographic evidence. The doubling was too consistent, too well aligned, to be mere vibration or die fatigue. This was a true double die class 4, perhaps resulting from a subtle misalignment during the die creation process. And yet, its rarity remained its greatest asset. Unlike other high-profile errors that appeared in hundreds or thousands, this one seemed to exist in mere dozens, perhaps fewer. And it hadn't been listed in the Red Book. Not yet. Its anonymity gave it power. It was a secret not yet commodified. Those who knew guarded it. Those who had won kept it out of sight, until the twist .1 coin surfaced unlike the others. At a coin show in Chicago, a dealer unveiled a 2000 Massachusetts quarter that not only bore the subtle doubling but also featured a completely different error, one that shocked even seasoned collectors. The state outline on the reverse was misaligned, shifted northeast by a fraction of a millimeter, enough to be visibly off-center, yet still encapsulated within the rim. This was no ordinary strike. Somehow, this coin had received the double die obverse and a misaligned reverse strike, two distinct errors, overlapping in one specimen. That combination? Astronomical odds. Whispers turned to a roar. Was this a one-off minting fluke? A transitional die pair? Theories swirled. Some believed it was part of a short-lived die pairing that only lasted for a single production shift. Others argued it was a rogue test strike that escaped into circulation by mistake. Whatever the cause, the result was undeniable. The coin had two documented errors, each rare in isolation, now fused together. The coin sold quietly, behind closed doors. Rumors placed the sale around $14,000, though no public record exists. What is known, however, is what followed. The value of the original error coins, the simple double die Massachusetts quarters, skyrocketed overnight. $200 became $600. Then $1, $200. Auction houses started watching. One listed a PCGS certified MS-65 example. The hammer price, $3,750. And still, the population remained low. Coin grading services reported only a handful confirmed. Most sat in private collections, unlikely to surface again. By now, the coin community knew it wasn't just about the error. It was the story, the uncertainty, the evolution, the surprise twist. It wasn't just a mistaken metal, it was a mystery. Further discoveries deepened the narrative. A quarter surface with a third anomaly, an unusually wide reeded edge, more pronounced than usual, potentially indicating a collar misfit during striking. Experts debated. Was it part of the same error family? Or another coincidence? Speculation drove interest, but the facts were grounding. Something went awry at the Philadelphia Mint in 2000, specifically during the production of the Massachusetts quarter. A die, improperly aligned or doubled during the hubbing process, struck a limited number of planchets. A second die, possibly faulty, introduced reverse side alignment discrepancies. Whether intentional, accidental, or part of a broader test sequence lost to time, the result was the same, a layered error legacy encased in ordinary-looking change. Collectors began hunting again, not in banks or rolls, but in their own jars, old drawers, forgotten coin cups. Every Massachusetts 2000 quarter became suspect. Loop sales spiked. YouTube videos dissected the doubling frame by frame. Social media threads emerged, charting found specimens with GPS tags and condition grades. And then, just when the buzz threatened to settle, another coin was discovered, this time in near-perfect condition. A Massachusetts 2000 quarter with both known errors, plus full luster and no visible wear. It was a numismatic unicorn. The coin was sent for grading, emerging as MS-68. Population: 1. The coin hit the private auction circuit with an air of reverence. Collectors circled. The final sale? A staggering $17,850. And just like that, a single centennial coin minted in the dawn of a new millennium, overlooked and underestimated, had become a modern legend. Its value was no longer just in its rarity, but in its layered mystery. A quiet error, a growing discovery, a twist that reshaped its worth. It had passed through hands unnoticed for years, perhaps decades, before its true nature was understood. Some coins announce themselves with flair. Others hide, waiting. The 2000 Massachusetts quarter whispered its secret to a patient few, and those who listened found a fortune. In 2015, the United States Mint was deep into its America, the Beautiful Quarters program, an ambitious initiative that had been rolling out since 2010. Each coin celebrated a national park or site from one of the states or territories, intricately designed, struck in immense quantities, and destined to pass silently through millions of hands. That year, 5 new quarters were issued, honoring locations from Nebraska to North Carolina. Among them, one bore the name Homestead, a tribute to Nebraska's Homestead National Monument of America. Simple in design, featuring a log cabin, water pump, and wheat symbols of self-reliance, but hidden within that simplicity, something was quietly, almost deviously off. The coins began their journey at the Denver and Philadelphia mints, with designs carefully approved and dies rigorously prepped. Hundreds of millions would be struck, and under that scale, even the most precise systems faltered. Among those millions, just a few came out wrong. Not dramatically wrong, no glaring cracks or misshapen holes, but off in the most nuanced, collectible kind of way. The kind of wrong that doesn't scream. It hums. At first, no one noticed. Why would they? Error coins often take time to surface, especially when the mistake is small enough to pass through standard inspections. But eventually, a hobbyist browsing through freshly unrolled quarters noticed something strange. The windows on the cabin, those tiny squares in the center of the design, appeared to have something extra. Not quite a scratch, not postman damage, but something embedded. Something raised. The collector leaned closer. 3 extra lines, almost like ghostly bars, filled in the window panes. Not just a single occurrence, 3 of them, side by side. The effect resembled shutters or boards. But it didn't belong there. This wasn't part of the design. Not officially. Confused but intrigued, the collector checked more coins. Only one bore the odd feature. It wasn't dramatic enough to shout for attention, but it stuck out in just the right way to stir curiosity. They took photos, posted them online. Responses trickled in. Some saw it too. Others dismissed it. But then a second collector reported the same detail, and then a third. The extra window lines, as they were first called, drew interest. Theories emerged. Die clash? Clawed die? A transfer from previous hubbing? No answer seemed to fit perfectly. The mystery was too specific. The extra lines were neat, defined, and repeated in multiple examples. That consistency ruled out random damage. Gradually, error specialists began to lean toward a more precise diagnosis. Die doubling. Specifically, a form of doubling on the reverse window design. The doubling created the illusion of window bars where none should exist. It wasn't machine doubling, there was too much depth. It had the hallmarks of a legitimate double die. Still, the find wasn't officially cataloged. Not yet. And for early collectors, that meant opportunity. Prices began modestly, as they often do. A few dollars here, 20 there. The early coins sold online didn't command headlines. But as more credible grading services started confirming the error, labeling it a legitimate double die reverse, the tide began to shift. Collectors realized this was not only rare, but concentrated. The error only seemed to appear in quarters from the Philadelphia Mint, and only on coins featuring the Homestead design. Soon, searchers were hunting for it, specifically dumping rolls, squinting at window panes under magnifying glasses, scrutinizing every raised line and corner. Demand increased. But supply? It remained thin. There were theories about why the error occurred. One suggested a misaligned hubbing process during die creation, leading to a slight shift in the window details that repeated during strikes. Another posited that the doubling occurred during a limited die's lifespan, producing only a fraction of coins before replacement. Whatever the cause, the result was a coin error that was both subtle and deeply collectible. And then, like clockwork, came the twist. A small-town dealer in Montana, not even known for error coin dealings, posted a blurry photo to a private Facebook group. It showed the reverse of a 2015 Homestead quarter, same cabin, same pump, but this one had something entirely unexpected. The water pump spout appeared to have an additional bulge, a phantom extension. Under better lighting, it became clear. The water spout was doubled. Now there were two errors on the same coin: the window pane doubling and the spout misalignment. Coin specialists debated, were they the same die? Two variants from the same die stage? Or overlapping errors from sequential production? The truth came clearer once two examples surfaced with both errors in pristine, uncirculated condition. The coin now had a face, and the community had a new chase piece. Prices spiked dramatically. The doubled window error alone, once fetching $20, started selling at $150 for high-grade specimens. After the dual error coin emerged, certified examples hit $900, then passed the $1,500 mark. But it didn't end there. In early 2024, a private auction in New York featured a graded MS67 2015 Homestead quarter with both errors, verified window pane doubling and the water pump distortion. It had full luster, zero contact marks, and sharply defined devices. It was the finest known example. The bidding war started modestly, but as phones lit up and absentee bids rolled in, the price climbed with intensity. $5,000,7,200, $10,000. In the end, the hammer came down at a remarkable $12 for $100 from an overlooked error to a four-figure prize. The 2015 Homestead quarter had achieved something rare. It turned quiet imperfection into legendary status. Today, only a few dozen certified examples of the window pane doubling exist. Fewer still show both the window and pump errors, and among them, only a handful approach near perfect mint state. The coin remains a beacon for sharp-eyed collectors, a reminder that even in the humdrum of modern coinage, stories still unfold in copper and nickel. The right coin in the right hands at the right time. It's no longer just a quarter. It's a piece of history. And in this case, that piece is worth exactly $12 for $100. If you're intrigued by these subtle yet valuable finds, you might also want to learn about the 2014 Great Sand Dunes quarter error F, the 2019 San Antonio Missions double die F, or the compelling story behind the 2009 DC quarter with missing edge lettering F. The year was 2019, a time marked by political shifts, global uncertainties, and for numismatists, a curious sense of anticipation. The U.S. Mint was well into the America the Beautiful quarters program, and the year's releases included Lowell, Massachusetts, American Memorial Park, War in the Pacific, San Antonio Missions, and Frank Church River of No Return Wilderness. Each release carried with it the weight of heritage, the precision of engraving, and the stamp of mechanical reliability expected from the mint. Yet buried within this polished process, something subtle unraveled, silent, unnoticed at first. It would not declare itself with flashy distortions or obvious flaws. Instead, its mystery lay hidden in plain sight. Among millions of quarters distributed across the nation that year, one bore the Frank Church River of No Return Wilderness reverse, a rugged design honoring Idaho's untamed beauty. The motif, bold and detailed, captured a drifting boat on wild currents surrounded by towering pine trees. On the obverse, George Washington's profile stood firm, as always, facing left, with the year 2019 crisp and perfect. but in a small coin shop nestled in the quiet outskirts of Cincinnati. Something about 1/4 FEL.off.to most eyes. It was nothing more than pocket change. But for 32-year-old hobbyist Marcus Leland, it was an itch at the base of his skull he couldn't ignore. He'd just acquired a roll of 2019 W quarters, those elusive West Point Mint rarities introduced that year as a bold initiative to spark coin collecting interest among the general public. Only 2 million of each design were struck at West Point, bearing the coveted W mint mark. For Marcus, who'd spent years in the trenches of numismatic obscurity, sifting through coin rolls for traces of uniqueness, that W had become something more than a letter. It was a symbol of the hunt. Marcus wasn't expecting a miracle. He hadn't had one in over a decade of searching. But there was something unusual about the way this particular quarter gleamed beneath the fluorescent desk light. At first, he thought the edge had a subtle doubling, perhaps machine damage. But as he rotated the coin under a loop, a cold tingle crept up his spine. On the reverse, to the left of the boat's wake, a fine line so deliberate, so subtly raised it matched the rest of the relief. It traced like a phantom, almost as if the metal had been disturbed before the final strike. But it wasn't damage. Marcus blinked. No, this was not damage. It was doubling, but not the kind caused by poor alignment or die fatigue. The letters of Wilderness had a ghost, a second shadow just to the east of the original strikes. Die variety? Maybe. But the spacing was tight and precise, unlike the sloppy spreads of mechanical doubling. Marcus's breath caught. He flipped the coin back to the obverse. The Liberty inscription was affected too. Each letter had a distinct, split-edge appearance. Not prominent, not dramatic, but present. He held his breath. What if this wasn't just a one-off? What if this was a legitimate double die? Word traveled fast in niche corners of the internet. He posted high-resolution scans on a private numismatics forum. Within hours, responses flooded in. Some scoffed. "Looks like die deterioration," one user said. But others weren't so quick to dismiss it. One veteran collector from Arizona messaged him privately and requested more images. A day later, the tone shifted. "You might have something here," he said, and then, in a chilling moment of validation, a new thread appeared. Someone else, from a bank in Portland, Oregon, had found a similar piece. Their photos were nearly identical. The doubled features matched with eerie precision. The "E pluribus unum" inscription, upon closer inspection, also showed clear evidence of doubling. But the icing on the cake? Both coins bore the West Point mint mark. For a moment, the collecting community held its breath. W mint mark coins were already limited in mintage. A double die error within that pool? That was lightning in a bottle. As the weeks passed, more examples surfaced, but only a handful. And always the same coin, the 2019 W Frank Church River of no return quarter. Not Lowell, not Guam, just Idaho. The coin shared minute but undeniable traits: doubled legends on both obverse and reverse, slight separation lines around select design elements, and that peculiar second curve around Washington's eye. Prices began modestly. One sold on eBay for $38, barely more than 20 times face value, but enough to raise eyebrows. Then another sold for $102, followed by an authenticated PCGSMS 66 example for $275. Collectors took notice. The error had passed the point of casual curiosity. It was now a chase item, yet the mint remained silent. No official acknowledgement. No press releases. For months, speculation swirled. Was this an overlooked double die from a worn master hub? Or worse, was it a result of an experimental die not meant to enter circulation? Theories multiplied. One insider suggested that the doubled features came from a master die intended for test strikes, somehow repurposed due to equipment shortages. Another posited that a single working die had been improperly annealed, soft enough to distort with repeated use, yet firm enough to keep pressing coins until someone caught it. No theory could be proven. The error's origin was a fog mirror. Then came the twist that turned curiosity into frenzy. A Florida-based grader received a coin for evaluation, another 2019 W, clearly a double die, but with an additional anomaly. The edge of the coin lacked the distinctive reading. A smooth edge. Completely smooth. The entire rim was plain. It should have been impossible. Every quarter struck for circulation undergoes a process that ensures reading as part of the striking collar. A quarter with a smooth edge and a double die. The grader checked the weight 5.67 grams. Exactly right. The metal composition matched. But the missing edge reading suggested a misstep in the striking process, possibly involving a collar malfunction. Yet when paired with the double die, the coincidence was too much. This wasn't just a mistake, it felt almost like sabotage. Or perhaps an experiment. The coin made headlines within numismatic circles. Valuation spiraled. The market, always ravenous for layered anomalies, latched on like a storm surge. One bidder offered $1,600 privately. Another coin, an ordinary double die without the smooth edge, sold for $1,100 at auction. What followed was a scramble. Coin roll hunters began focusing on 2019 W quarters with fevered intensity. Bank tellers were harassed for fresh rolls. Social media groups exploded with blurry photos and dubious claims. Marcus, the original discoverer, remained silent, overwhelmed by attention and uncertain whether to sell, hold, or simply step away. He chose to hold. By the spring of 2022, confirmed examples numbered only 15. Authentication services cataloged the error as 2019 WDDR001. But whispers persisted that the mint had internally identified the source die and quietly pulled it from service before too many coins escaped. The value climbed steadily. A coin that once sat, unnoticed, in a sealed roll in a Midwestern bank had now become a collector's grail. Experts argued its rarity was comparable to the famed 1955 double die cent, not in numbers, but in elusiveness and origin. For that cent, the doubling was bold and dramatic. Here, it was subtle, hidden in a whisper of lines, a glint of separation, a quiet rebellion against mechanical monotony. And yet, it wasn't the doubling or the missing edge that delivered the final jolt. A numismatist and former mint contractor named Ellis Burkett made a curious observation. While studying a series of high-resolution micrographs of the 2019 W errors, he noticed a repeated flaw across all known examples: a minute fleck, barely visible, just beneath the bottom curve of Washington's bust. It was an impression, not of a crack or strike-through, but of something intentional. After enhancement and comparison, the shape emerged, the ghostly outline of a D, not a minmark, not a design element. A rogue initial? A concealed symbol? Theories exploded. Some believed it was the result of a gouge in the die, others that it might have been manually etched before the die was installed, an act of rebellion, or a signature. No one knows who left the mark. The mint has never responded to inquiries. But the existence of that tiny V has sent the error's value and mystique into uncharted territory. As of early 2025, the best preserved example, with clean doubling, smooth edge, and the V marking, sits insured at $12,000. A modest fortune for a 25-cent piece. Collectors whisper about it. Dealers speak in hushed tones. And somewhere, perhaps still in circulation, lie undiscovered cousins of the coin that started it all, a quiet error, born of perfect storm, hiding its truth in plain sight, waiting for the right eyes to notice.